Hello and welcome to the Modern Homesteading Podcast. I'm your host, Harold Thornborough.
And I'm your other host, Rachel Jameson.
Together again, Rachel. It's been a while.
Yes, it has been a little while. Well, I was doing a bunch of interviews. You did a bunch of interviews, was it in December?
Yeah, I had a few there where I did all
Yeah,
at
and then
once.
I did a bunch of interviews and gives both of us a little bit of a break, and it's
Yeah,
just how it goes. You have interviews and some of them are really hard to line up because people are busy. And I just somehow ended up with a bunch of them in a row. So
yeah,
we just went with it.
it's easier that way. I mean, I've done that.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just get in a interview mode and you just start doing. You get a hold of a bunch of people all at once, and they all say yes all at once, and then it's like,
yep.
okay, let's do
That's
this.
exactly what
Yeah,
happened.
that's
Yep.
what happened with me a few times too. So yeah, it's great. Yeah, and it's been great for me because it's been super busy on the homestead. Been getting lots of work done around here, so it was convenient for me.
I had a really good time. I mean, I really enjoy doing interviews. I love talking to other homesteaders and
You did some great interviews. That I'm still my mind is still kind of swimming around over that the Nigel Palmer interview.
yeah,
Closed
he
loop
is
soil
just
fertility.
brilliant.
Yeah, that was some great information. Folks, you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that one. If you don't listen to
Yeah.
any of the others, you listen to that one because that one
Well, and
was.
he has a book and then he has a YouTube channel. And the book, I'll be honest with you, the book to me was a little overwhelming.
I like the
But
book.
once
Yeah,
you pair the book together with his YouTube channel brings it down to DIY level, very much so.
just hearing
But
him talk to you
yeah,
was just
I know.
encouraging. I mean, really to
Yeah.
think that, well, he makes it sound like, well, this is doable. All this stuff
Yeah.
is so easily done, and you can make a huge difference in your garden production. And
Yeah. And super simple, super
yeah,
affordable. Um, but I never knew that before I interviewed him, he, I never knew that he was an aerospace engineer.
yeah, he
After
actually
talking
is
to
a
him,
scientist.
yeah, after talking to him, you're like, okay, that makes sense because he's just brilliant.
Yeah, he is. He's yeah,
Yeah.
he's just that kind of guy. It was a great interview. But yeah, so today we're going to talk about, which is weird, that's funny because that's kind of high tech soil, studying and stuff. I mean, so you think about the way what he views soil. I mean, he's really getting into the biology and the science of it, right? And then when we think of the other side, we're thinking about like technology in the sense of like electronics and things, which is what we're going to talk about today, homesteading and technology. And as modern homesteaders, you know,
Yes.
we use technology, it's just technology is part of our lives. I mean, we have electricity. We're on the internet right now. We're on a Zoom call doing, I mean, all this stuff is just part of our lives. Right. But I feel like, uh, there are definitely some reasons that technology can be a huge benefit to your homestead. But I also want to spend a little bit of time talking about potential problems with using tech on the homestead. And then we can maybe kind of talk about where we land at this moment on it. But I do think there are some real reasons that tech can be valuable. And I think for me in the past, it's been time saving because
Yeah.
there was a time when I didn't have a lot of time, especially early on when I was doing this. And anything I could do to save me some time was worth having. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, so tech can definitely save you time,
Yeah.
especially when it
Especially
comes
if
to
you're one of,
watering.
yeah, when you're one of us modern homesteaders that homesteads and have a job at the same time,
Hmm.
time saving's huge.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking just like so. We're going to talk more about that actual things, maybe some things that you can actually add that are uh, tech that you can add to your homestead that would save you these things. But that is the first thing that comes to my mind is watering a garden. You spend a lot of time watering things, and yeah, some technology there can save you a lot of time. Labor, of course, labor. I mean, it's just all these things save you labor. If you don't have to take the time and go do the things, tech can save you labor.
Right.
Um, and like you have, I mean, you've talked about it a few times with your freezer, and we'll talk about that tool here in a little bit. But it can actually prevent potential loss of a lot of money and whatever you have,
Yeah.
in your freezers and stuff, by using some technology there that you do. So technology can absolutely be a huge benefit on the
Yeah,
homestead.
it really can. I think that technology and automation are good things. We are going to talk about, sometimes we don't absolutely love them.
No.
But for me, it definitely made it so that we could go away or I don't have to check things every day. I probably should, but I don't. Well, not, and I'm not talking
Yeah.
about animals. I'm talking about plants. But I have plant babies in my basement, and sometimes I just get so busy and it's easier, or I'm relying on my memory, which is not a very good thing to rely on, trust me. I'm relying on my memory to turn lights on and off or to turn water on and off. And
Mhm.
that's where automation and tech really, really helps because before I was forgetting to either turn the lights off or I was forgetting to turn them on. So I would have seedlings that wouldn't have light for a couple of days. Well, that's not good when you're trying to grow healthy seedlings.
Right.
So, for me, um, I guess I kind of thought of it more of as a lower tech, but maybe
Yeah.
it's not. Maybe it is a tech,
Well,
it is a high tech thing. I guess it depends on where your definition of high tech and low tech are,
yeah,
especially
there's
as we're
definitely
entering
levels of tech.
AI.
Yeah, there's definitely levels of technology, and yeah, AI is probably the top. It's
Yeah,
probably at the peak. But then I think we start getting into like signals like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I think
right.
that's a high tech still. I mean, I think we're in that phase. Solar's probably a little below that because solar is getting pretty common and pretty standard. I mean, so is
Right.
Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, but these are still all things that are probably on the higher tech side of things. But then you're just getting down to basic timers and heat and switches
Yeah.
and things. That's middle low tech.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely levels of technology, right? And I think um, we're definitely in an age now where this high tech stuff can be super beneficial, but it can also be pretty expensive.
Mhm.
It can also have a lot of moving parts that can fail,
Yeah.
which we're getting into the potential problems, failure and over dependence. Because if
Mhm.
you are too dependent on them to the point where you're not paying attention to things because you just know it's going to happen without you intervening, and then one day it fails, well, then the whole benefit that it was getting you, you just lost. Like if you didn't look at these things and verify they're working, then and then they fail, then you can still have a big loss. I mean, if say you have something that's going to automatic water, but
Yeah.
it failed, but you didn't know it failed. Oh, I don't have to worry about that because it's
Exactly.
going to exactly, and everything just died. All your plants died because you didn't go out there and look. Or like I was telling you about last year with my aquaponics, I'm actually scaling back on aquaponics because it's been more of a novelty for me. It hasn't been really a thing of production, and I've enjoyed it because I like tech. I mean, I like technology. I like systems. I'm a mechanic. I just love how things work. And I like building things. But so it's been fun for me. But when I really look at the production and what I'm getting out of it, it's like it's cheaper and easier to grow it in the ground in some soil than it is with aquaponics. As fascinating as I think aquaponics is, and
Right.
I think it can be done in a at a certain scale to where it's very productive and very beneficial and cost effective. But for me, it wasn't, because it's doing, and
Yeah.
then but then I got comfortable with it. I had things on timers, and all these pumps are running, lights are running, things are running, heat, all this stuff's all on timers and temperature gauges and all kinds of stuff. And I got complacent. And then I didn't pay attention for several days. And then I walked by my greenhouse where I had all this going on and I could smell the dead fish. And I went in
Mm.
there
Oh my.
and it hadn't been working evidently for a few days because I was complacent. And plants were dying, fish were dead. I mean, it failed. And I didn't notice because I thought, well, I just became over dependent on it. And I think that happens a lot with technology because it does fail, and we get so used to things just working that
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
it's just waiting for you not to be paying attention so it can fail.
Yeah, and that's why I have always been very low tech person.
Hmm.
That's just kind of why I've always leaned actually more even towards primitive technology, like
Hmm.
old school canning and an old school cellar and dry food storage. I mean, and we still probably are leaning towards getting rid of having so many freezers and having less dependence on that because we've had them fail before and we've
Hmm.
lost food before. But I do feel like there's a purpose for it. And I feel like,
Yeah,
this
it's
is a
got
modern homesteading podcast, and I do feel like there's some really cool tech out there.
yeah.
And I'm not saying that people shouldn't use it. I'm just saying I might not be a huge fan of having
T-
every little thing automated on my
I would
homestead.
say I actually enjoy it and it's fun, but I
Yeah.
also think it's probably not the best thing for my homestead. For one thing, it's expensive too. It can be really
It
expensive
does get
buying all the
expensive.
toys. You start buying all the toys and putting them to use. And then what I find is, I mean, in the past, I buy these toys, I use them for a while, and then I stop using them, and I just basically wasted my money because I stopped using them at some point or something.
Yeah.
It happens a
Well, and
lot with
for
toys
me,
like that.
I think we've talked about this before a little bit, but the mini prepper in me thinks, how sustainable is some of this tech once it
Yeah.
quits and you can't get it? Or we've actually had this happen where tech becomes obsolete. So you
Hmm.
have this old gadget, say a freezer alarm, that they update it to a newer one. So then when they go to update the app, your older one becomes obsolete. So you have to buy the new one,
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah. So
I,
you know,
I think what I dislike about technology the most, and like I said, this wasn't at first. I didn't care. I was all about saving time, saving labor, and you're putting all this to use. But I think as I've been doing it a lot longer, is anytime I've got automation going on, and I'm using some technology for that, and timers and all the stuff. It kind of disconnects me from the homesteading lifestyle a little bit. I
yeah,
don't I don't get that enjoyment of, just doing all the things and paying attention to the things. And it's like you feel so much more connected when it's all dependent on you going and spending the time and doing the labor and paying attention versus when
yeah,
you're just kind of relying on all this stuff to do it for you. And I have come to really enjoy the connection to the homesteading lifestyle as much
yeah.
as the produce that it produces for me, right?
Yeah,
Or
we
the
kind
meat
of
or
got
whatever.
into this before. We were going to talk about we're doing this reverse of how we were going to, but since we're here, that was what I felt like too. I feel like my connection to the plants and the animals, that's what makes me human. And when I
Yeah.
remove that because tech is doing it, I don't know. For me, I think it's going to have to be a specific thing and have a specific purpose because that's why I'm homesteading. I mean, I am homesteading. Both you and I started homesteading for our health. But I also realized that part of my health benefit has been that connection, like
Yeah.
being outside, breathing the fresh air, getting dirty, being in the garden, watering, just that peacefulness. I can stand there and, you can stand there and pray or meditate or whatever you do while you're watering your plants and
Listen to podcasts.
listen to podcasts. But I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like that's where my heart is. It's just
Yeah, yeah. You
being
don't want
in
to get a weed
that.
pulling robot to do all that for you or anything?
No, I don't. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with it because we do have our watering our garden is on a timer.
Yeah.
But there's certain times but we only use that rarely. I mean, we use it once in a while. We use it when we're gone. We don't use it all the time
Yeah.
because I actually enjoy being out there and watering and
Yeah.
watching the bees interact with the plants and the birds. And I don't know, there's just something about that. And I just feel like that's just kind of how we were designed.
And
Is to be
but I
part
also
of
think
nature.
there's people who don't have a lot of time,
Yeah,
and
right.
if they could, this enables them to homestead,
Yep,
take advantage of it,
100%.
everything you can. But if you can be home and do these things, I actually feel like it's a better choice to do these things without the automation necessarily. But
Yeah.
there's time and place for it, for sure. A matter of fact, we're going to actually
Yeah,
give you
let's
a
get
few
into our
things. Some of these things we think are a good idea. Some of them I just think are cool, and I don't use them. But I thought, well, that's really neat. I want to mention it, so I just put down some.
Yeah,
I
that's
put
what
them
I did
down because I
too.
thought that was kind of neat.
Some of these we have recommendations for, and
Yeah,
other ones I just mentioned because I can't tell you what works well because I've never had one, but I thought,
yeah.
oh, I should mention that that's a cool thing.
The first one I had right off the bat was this is tech for the garden, and this was a Bluetooth soil moisture and temperature meter. Not only does this thing do all that, and it gives you this information in an app, so it's in your garden and it's telling you the moisture level in your garden, your temperature of your soil, all this stuff, right? It can actually be, I don't know if this one could or not, but there was one I saw that could be connected to a uh, automatic waterer to kick on sprinkler systems. Like when it got below a certain level of moisture in your garden, it would automatically just send a signal to it, kick it on, water your garden for you, do all the things, let you know if the temperatures were getting too low, you cover things up, whatever. I mean, that's
It
amazing.
just
I don't have
blows my
anything like
mind.
that. Probably will
Yeah,
never have anything like that in my garden,
right.
but it's kind of cool. I
It is
mean,
kind of cool. And I
you can
could
save a
see it
garden.
totally being used for a purpose. So
Yeah.
yeah, you go on vacation or you have a very large garden area,
Hmm.
a very large. And when I say large, to me, I'm not even talking hundreds of acres. I mean, if you even had 5 acres to take care of, it
Yeah.
would be nice to have it, even if all you did was use it for the soil for the soil moisture and the temperatures. I
Yeah.
mean,
Just have it sent to your phone
temperature,
and keep tabs on it even. Yeah.
yeah, because temperature helps you know when to plant, when things are
Hmm.
going to germinate better, which plants, so
Yeah,
much
these
of
are
that.
just like little probes with a sensor on top that sends a signal. It just sticks right in the ground, stays there, and it just feeds you this information all the time. I thought it was
That's
kind of cool.
cool. That's pretty cool.
Water timers or something. It's pretty low tech, but it's something that's been
Mhm.
around a long time. I mean, they're digital. Most of them are digital anymore. You just set times on them, and they'll kick on automatically and water. But I think it's something a lot of people use. I still don't even use one of those. I have used one of those, but I had one 10 years ago, probably. I don't know, somewhere around there. I had
Really?
one I used for a while, failed on me at one point, never replaced it because I don't really need it.
We have one and it's analog.
Oh, really? Yeah, I had
I
digital.
don't, I think I'm not, I think my husband got it at Menards. I don't think, I know we didn't get it on Amazon, but yeah, we use that. It's handy, especially if we're gone or busy.
Now, this next one, uh, I think actually a good idea if you have a lot of pest issues like deer
Yes.
and rabbits and things like that. And so that motion activated sprinkler, I think it's a good way to keep some pests out of
I've,
the garden. And
yeah, I've heard people using those for
hmm
people that have been having problems with cats going to the bathroom
hmm
in
and
their
I
garden
might
beds.
be putting one in my garden this year
Yep.
because I have a bunch of neighbors' cats that are, yeah, they're hanging out in my garden a lot, a
Yeah,
lot.
I think it would be really helpful. And I've also heard it helps with two-legged things that wander onto your property. Oh, well, one of the things I put on here, and I don't have a link because there was so many, and I don't know which is the best one, but I've seen garden towers that people have. So if you're in like a really small space and you even have like a balcony, I've seen these garden towers that are totally automated. They
Hmm.
get self-water with timers for their lights that
Yep.
are on solar. They're just crazy. And yes, they're expensive, but some of those put out a ton of food. And in fact, I actually have a friend that has one and he grows year round and he just puts it in his living room. And then in the
Yeah.
summer, he puts it out on the porch.
Yep.
And
Those
they
aerial
love it.
gardens and things like that. Yeah, they're pretty
Yeah.
awesome. A lot of them are even hydroponic and
Yes.
fully automated, and they're just amazing. They grow they grow fast and they grow really well. I mean, yeah, it's one way you can grow a lot of food in a very small space and be fully automated. And if you're a busy person but you want to grow some
Hmm.
greens or whatever, they'll do it and they'll do it
And to
good.
me, that is definitely a really cool use for tech, especially if you're in a very small spot.
Hmm. Yep. How about tech for livestock? I know you've had chickens in the past. Do you ever have an
Yeah.
automatic chicken coop door?
I didn't, but I don't know. We kind of talked about this before the show
Yeah,
started.
we were in
I
the
like the idea. I
River's
really do
pre-show. We
like
were
the
talking
idea of it.
about it.
I
Yeah.
think if I was going to do it, I would probably have, which we're going to talk about a little bit further down, but I would probably have a camera just to make
Yeah.
sure, or I would still want to make sure. But I
Well, we
like
were
the
talking
idea of
about,
it.
yeah, we because we were talking earlier. You said, well, I kind of enjoy letting them out and
I do.
and
I
putting
love
them up.
it.
And he's like, yeah, that would be great. But what if you want to go out to dinner with your spouse
Right.
and it's right about that time, and now you got to either wait till after you put chickens up or before, and all you have to do is just check and make sure they all got in when you got back. I could see that being a really handy thing.
Hmm.
I mean, I think that was it's pretty low tech.
Yeah.
And it's, but there, of course, anything's prone to failure. So you still always want to check, but I just think it could be handy if you just happen to be away from the
Sure.
house when
Yeah.
it was that right time. Then something you could just check and make sure when you got back. And it could save the lives of your chickens. I
Or
mean,
if you had, I'm just thinking of this, if you had a really strange schedule like you do.
yeah, where you leave before dark,
Yeah.
and yeah, but your chickens are still out. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think there's absolutely use cases where an automatic
Hmm.
chicken coop door would be a really good idea. Everybody's really using electric poultry netting anymore. If you got any kind of
Feels like it.
predator pressure,
Yeah.
it's really a good idea because you're going to probably protect your chickens with some poultry netting. And it's not, again, it's not high tech. You can get the solar chargers and everything, and it's a little higher tech, but and there's still some failure. You still got to check. I mean, I don't know how many
Oh,
times
yeah.
people go out and check. Oh, this ain't even hot. It happens all the time. So you have to just kind of keep tabs on them. But there's lots of things. I think something I didn't put in on the list, but I have this. It's called an Inkbird thermostat, And I use this thing in everything. I use it
Hmm.
for running heaters. I will use it for in my brooders, like when I'm
Okay.
brooding and stuff like that. It's perfect. I mean, this thing will kick. You can set the degree range, you can set the temperatures, and it kicks anything off and on. Um, it's
That's
actually out at our
nice.
camper right now. We had our little electric heater hooked up to it
So
out at our
it
camper.
turns, you can put a temperature that you want and it'll turn it on and off.
Yep,
Basically, it's just like a thermostat in your
and you can
house
just set off the
then.
range, at
That's
whatever
nice.
range, whatever temperature, and how far you want it to go before it kicks off and on. So you can keep it like within a degree or 3 degrees or whatever of that.
That's nice.
You could literally use it to incubate eggs if you wanted to build your own incubator and use one of those and have the probe in
You're gonna
there.
have to put the link in there.
I actually have written blog posts about. I'll share the blog post I've written about it because
Okay.
I've written blog posts about it. It's probably my favorite tech. I use it on all the time. I have a couple of them actually, and it's
Nice.
really super handy. They even have a newer one that has I think it's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi built into it, and it can connect to your phone, and you can control it from your phone and keep tabs on it from your phone. Even I've seen that. I don't have that one, but they make one of those now with a little more up to
That's
date.
kind of nice, especially if you're away
Yeah,
from home for a lot and you've got like baby chicks.
yeah. Because honestly, what you're going to talk about one for your freezer, you could actually use that in a freezer. Even um,
Okay.
you can actually use that. You can actually use something like that for like building like a walk-in freezer
I
or
just
something.
forgot. We didn't put that on here, but
Yeah,
that
yeah,
does
like
bring it up.
the cool
Cool
bots,
bot.
the cool
Yeah,
bot, yeah, is a little piece of technology
that
that a
is a
lot of
huge thing
homesteaders find very, very valuable. Yeah, you
because
can
it's
make a
so
walk-in
much cheaper.
freezer
Yeah.
basically out of an air conditioner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can talk about that for the tech for the house, maybe.
yeah, yeah. So anyway,
Um,
that's something I forgot to put in, but there's you added auto feeders and things like
yeah,
that.
there's auto feeders. And you must because you have baby chicks and baby quail, but incubators and
Yep,
hatchers.
yep. I have
Those
my
are nice little
incubators.
tech. I mean, they
Yeah,
are tech.
it's simple, but yeah, it's just basically a
Simple
heater.
tech.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Well,
And
and they also roll the eggs probably too, right? Don't a
yep,
lot of them
yep.
will
Oh, it's
rotate
like a
the eggs?
turners. Yeah, it's got the
Yep.
turner in it. Yeah, it just rotates back and
And they
forth.
keep the humidity a
Yep, you
specific.
can do that.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't do the humidity, but there are some.
Okay.
You can actually add an extra thing on it that just pipes into it that adjusts your humidity.
Yeah, and all
Um,
that does is mimic what Mama would do.
at one point, I had electric heated water bottles on my rabbits, which was really
Oh, I
nice.
didn't know they had those. That is
They
good.
do have those, but the only problem I always ran into is they're the bite kind. You have to bite down on them instead of the little ball valve kind. There's a couple different kinds of waters. There's the ones they bite down on. It's got like a little
Uh-huh.
needle valve and it waters them. So many people, I recommended those at one time, but so many people kept sending me emails about how their rabbits would not use the bite down kind. They would only use the ball valve kind that they lick and they get their water.
Okay. Yeah.
And those only come in the like bite down things where they have to bite down on them to get the water. And my rabbits always did it. The only reason I quit using them is because they're kind of expensive and I didn't have enough of them for all my rabbits because I had so many rabbits at one point and I
Okay.
didn't buy a bunch of them. But
Maybe the company's changed it now and they got the
yeah,
little
maybe I
ball
haven't.
ones.
I mean, mine are like 12 years old, probably something like that, 11, 12 years old. I think I only had like three of them. And as I was expanding, I just didn't have any more. But they worked really well. They worked really well. Like we had like some, 30 below zero and their water was good to drink,
That's when it's
which was kind
yeah.
of great. It was kind of
Because
great.
thawing water is just that's one of
Yeah.
the bad bane of any homesteader's existence if you
I've,
live in the north.
I've got a good simple solution now. Twice a day, they'll freeze solid, the water bottles will, and I just keep a bucket and I just rotate them. I just pull all the ones
Yeah.
off and put up the new ones and bring those ones in the house, set them right on some duct work and let them thaw out, fill them, top them off, take them back out. Twice a day I'm doing that, just letting them thaw out. And it's a little bit more work, but again, it puts me in touch with the homestead a little bit
Yeah.
more. I don't know why, but I enjoy that. It's
I do
like
too.
I actually like it.
I enjoy repetition and routine.
Yeah, and I just like
Yeah.
having a system that works, but yet still keeps me in touch with things. It's not a lot of labor. It's not doesn't take that long to go out there and hang all those up, and do a thing. You just get a system set up that works easy, and yeah, it works nice. I have to have twice as many bottles, but those water bottles are really cheap, not like the heated ones. But like I said,
Right.
they work. But I guess a lot of people's rabbits just won't drink water out of them, which I thought was
Huh.
crazy. I mean, I never had any issue with it, but I didn't use them that
Yeah.
long, a couple of years. But anyway, another piece of tech though, if somebody was interested in checking those out.
Yeah, it got me thinking too. They've got, if you have bigger animals, they've got heated water tanks, and
Hmm.
we used a heated dog dish with the chickens.
Yeah, I've got some.
You know,
I've got these submergible heaters that you just drop in water. You can
Yeah.
drop them in
Yep.
I use them in my pond, my little backyard pond. I use them in the aquaponics tanks. I mean, you could use them in a water storage system. You could use them in all
Yep.
kinds of things. So yeah, work really well. So there's just a few things for livestock. There's tons of other stuff. I mean, if you really wanted to get into all kinds of stuff, there's all kinds of monitoring things for livestock, but more high tech than anything I've ever used. So it's nothing I really know anything about. Tech for the house. This is something you've talked about a few times. You want to go ahead and share that with us again?
Well, I have actually, it's funny because it was sitting right here. I have these Jovi, they're like little, they have a hygrometer and a thermometer on them. They're like these little discs that you can stick. And you don't have to use them in the freezer. You could actually use them anywhere in your house. So if you go away for the winter or or away for the summer, because some people up here, people go away for the winter, and in some places down south, people go away for the summer. But anyways, you can put them anywheres, and you program how when you want to be alarmed, I guess is the best
Yeah.
way to put it. So if you want to be alarmed if it's above 80 degrees, or if you want to be alarmed if it's above 10 degrees, if it's your freezer, it will tell you, and then it sends it through Wi-Fi, or you can do Bluetooth to your phone. And so we have one on each of our freezers, and it keeps track of the temperature and what the humidity is. And we have one freezer that we never realized was acting up, that we're now realizing is acting up because of us putting the thermometer in it. And so now we're watching it. 'Cause we're like,
Again, I'm seeing,
we better eat the food out of that one first, because I'm not sure that freezer is going to make it much longer.
yeah,
type
you've
of
talked
thing.
about those before, and I think they're a great idea. But again, my mind goes to potential failure, and I'm like, well, say it's middle of winter and electricity goes down. A lot of time when electricity goes down, your Wi-Fi goes down too.
Yep.
So your
Yep.
Wi-Fi is down. So that
Then I
isn't
won't
going
get
to
that.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to fail during that
Right.
situation. So you're not going to have any power to it, and you're not going to know.
Yep.
So I
That's the
mean,
bad thing.
there's potentials for failures and all this stuff, but yet when it's working right and everything's working, it's just a freezer failure. It could
Hmm.
absolutely tell you that.
Well, and if I was home, I could switch it over to Bluetooth if we lost power, because these
Okay.
are
Yeah.
totally battery operated.
Okay. Okay.
But and my phone would be battery operated, but they still there any of that could fail. And that's why I talked about earlier. I actually like primitive technology, and I've been leaning towards getting rid of. Right now we have 3 freezers, getting rid of, all but one of them,
Yeah.
and
We have a couple and
using other
yeah,
methods, just because I hate they take up so much space.
use a
They
lot of
use
electricity.
power.
Yeah.
There's just always
What I
that in
like
the back
about
of my
them,
mind. There's always that
yeah.
it could fail, because we
But
had one
in my
fail.
mind though, it's the quickest and easiest way to store food,
It
which I
is.
love. I
It
mean, it's
is
just
like
so just toss it in there pretty much.
it
I
is.
love
You butcher
that.
a bird and you just stick it in the freezer. You
Yeah, I mean, it is the
blanch some green
easiest way
beans,
to.
you stick them in the
Yep,
freezer. It's
it's
just
very simple.
it
Yeah.
is. It's a very
So
easy way to do it. But we've also lost a whole freezer before full of food.
yes, yeah.
And once you do that, if you ever do that one time, you never forget that it
We
happened.
Personally, we have my parents have lost one before and lost, but I actually ours has never went down uh,
Yeah.
full. So I think we've been pretty fortunate there.
And the
Um,
other thing I had neck under this, and I know it doesn't seem very homesteady, but if you're going to be using a lot of this tech, a lot of it involves you having Wi-Fi. And my son-in-law is really good at tech and stuff like that, and he sent us this link because he did some research and on this Wi-Fi system. And what he liked about it was it was secure, because that's
mm,
one of the issues with Wi-Fi is it's not
yeah,
always very secure. But one of the other things parents might like about it is it has parental controls on it. I don't have little kids anymore, but if you have young kids or teenagers, it helps with that. But it also is expandable. So we have one in our upstairs and one in our downstairs, which made us able to put security cameras actually not even close to our house, but they still get
mm.
Wi-Fi.
That is a issue I run into, and we can skip to that next if you want and talk about
Yeah,
security
go
cameras.
ahead.
Because yeah, that's an issue I ran into because like we have Wi-Fi cameras. We have like a Ring doorbell, and then we have a regular like another Wi-Fi camera at the back of our house that shines over the front of our barn. But at the back, where like the barn doors are, the garage doors and stuff are at the back, our Wi-Fi signal isn't strong enough to run cameras back
Right.
there. So it is
Yeah.
an issue. So you have to hardwire them in or get some kind of a booster that'll get a signal
Yep.
back
Yep.
there.
This
So
one you can put extensions on, which is what we did. And that's what,
yeah.
I mean, I know somebody um, that used Wi-Fi cameras to figure out they couldn't figure out what was killing their rabbits.
Yeah.
And they put a camera back there. That's one of the things where it's the security portion with the cameras can be
Yeah.
even predator security, not just two-footed security. And they
Yeah. I
figured
think,
out it was a raccoon getting
yeah,
into their
absolutely.
stuff.
I mean, it's part of your security. I think cameras, I mean, went years without
Oh,
them, but then once you start
yeah.
getting them, you're like, oh, these are really nice to have because they really do give you a peace of mind about things around your property and can help you
Yeah.
protect things from predators. I mean, I just had to get a possum out of my greenhouse last week. I mean, it was in there going through stuff. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's constantly, you got animals going through stuff and, doing
Yeah, we
things.
have
So
cameras out at our property, but they're not Wi-Fi or anything like that.
I,
But it helped us know what predators are out there, and we actually have quite a few bears running around out there.
you know,
And
I said I didn't
yeah.
have cameras at the back of our barn. Well, we had that. I was talking about it in the pre-show. Remember pre-show that I just filled up a 20-yard dumpster of our garage.
Yeah.
Of course, it's back there. So it's sitting back for a couple days before they come get it after we filled it up. Well, somebody comes back there and starts rummaging through it, throwing everything out of it, looking for whatever, just stuff they
Oh
can
my
get.
gosh.
And they just threw it everywhere. And, because I ain't got no camera back there. And so I had to go back there and put it all back in, get it all flattened back out. I'm like, man, you gotta be kidding me, people. I don't care if you get digging there and get stuff, but why do you have to
Put
throw
it
everything
back.
out?
Right.
Put everything back in. So yeah, I had to go and clean up that mess. So yeah, things like that happen, right? I mean, just got
They
people.
do. And it's just been super nice for us. You're waiting for a package. I know a lot of people have the front doorbell thingies, like you said you
Yeah,
have the
the ring. Yeah, we have the
ring.
ring
Yeah.
doorbell. Yeah, with camera on it.
Yeah, it's just nice. And I think you could use them even my husband grew up on a hobby farm and he said it was the animals always have babies in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
And
always.
he was like, I could see cameras being useful for something like that, putting one in the barn and knowing that, you know, false alarm or not.
Yeah, I tell you, a piece of tech that I'd be hard pressed to do without is the solar motion sensor security lights that they're
Oh,
constantly charged from the sun, but yet then any motion just lights them up. And I tell you, we have several of those around the property, and it will light this place up if somebody's out walking around. But what generally happens is there's cats or something walking around, so it seems like
yep.
it's lit up a lot around here because there's always some animal walking around.
Yeah.
But
So I don't know. I mean, as much as we talk about not liking tech, I think we have put together a decent list here, and a few of them we kind of
simple, yeah,
like.
simple tech. A lot of it is, and and again, I'm a computer guy. I'm on the computer a lot. Well, I haven't been lately, but I've been, I do like technology. I'm fascinated by AI. I don't know how it's going to end our world, but I'm
Right.
fascinated by it. I was watching a YouTube video about the OpenAI robot they was doing some kind of it is amazing. I ought to share a link
Hmm.
to that. This thing, they're like, just asking it like general questions. Since it's super casual, answering the questions, he's like, is there anything on that table I can eat? He goes, we got an apple here. You want that? And he's like handing him an apple. And it's like talking to a person almost and doing things like a
Oh,
person would
that's
do. And I was like, that's a
bizarre.
little freaky for
Yeah.
sure. And that's where we're at, and it makes me wonder in like 10, 15, 20 years where we're going to be at. Um, so
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I did forget to mention I have down here, there is a bunch of homesteading apps, and
yeah,
one
I
of the
was
ones
leading to
that
that. Yeah.
I played on was Seed Time. Now I didn't there's a free version and there's a paid version. I have the free version. I probably won't use it though because I am not a person that I don't even use the electronic calendar on my phone. But there's stuff like that that will help you know when to plant and put together succession planting schedules, which can get complicated.
Yep.
And that was kind of why I wanted to do it.
Lots of apps great for identifying plants, especially for
Yes.
foraging and things
Oh
like that.
yeah.
Lots of great apps
Sure.
for that out there.
I have
I've used a couple of those, and they work really well. It's amazing how well they work.
I'm grabbing my phone to look at what I have. I have one that I really like. It's called PlantNet.
Yeah, that's the one I have. Yeah,
Yeah,
that one actually, it's really good for identifying stuff.
it
It'll give you like
is.
some options, and you'll look at the actual pictures of plants and like, oh, that's definitely it, and you can match
Yeah,
them up, and you can identify the like the fruit or the berry, the leaves, the bark. It'll do like different ways of verifying it and stuff. It's really really
it
good.
is. It is really
Um,
good. And it'll go by your area and then
Yep.
it gives you the Latin name. I
Hmm.
really like it. I
Give you
use
some
it
information
quite
about
a
it.
bit.
Yeah. I've actually planted a few things around my property that like some of them were like decorative bushes and things like that. But I was like, I forgot what they were. It's like, what are
Right.
these? So I'd use that app to identify them, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that now. And it's like, so then I try
But
to
I'm
like
not
put it.
the only one that's
Well,
done
I actually
that.
have a little book. I try to keep track of that in, but then I got the book after I planted a lot of that stuff. So it's like I've been trying to go back and kind of really keep tabs on what I planted around here. And because I got like three apple trees. I don't know the varieties on all three of those apple trees because I didn't write it down when I planted them, right? And I
Right.
forgot. In your mind, you're thinking, I'll always remember that, but then you don't.
Were you
And
able to
so
identify the apples through that?
no, that's why I say I don't know those apple trees. But I'm just making a point like you plant stuff and it's like then you forget what it was. And
Yes.
it'd be
It's
nice. It's nice
easier.
to keep track
Yeah.
of things like that.
It's easier than people would think to forget.
Yeah,
It
which
really
was
is.
I was getting ready to make the point, especially if you're into doing any kind of permaculture design or property design. There's a lot of software out there that's really good for like when you're mapping out your property, you can label things where they're going, especially your perennials and your
Ooh,
trees and things like
really?
that.
There is.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of. I mean, just even the simplest of software, just using things that that's just for actual design like that. I mean, um, just building something and saving the files and doing things. I mean,
Yeah,
this is technology, but it's
it is.
absolutely useful. And I do things like that. I mean, I am for that because it really does help you keep tabs.
Well, I was looking at before we got on here, I had quickly Googled, you know that word, Googled using Google Docs and Google Calendar
Hmm.
for your homestead. And there was a bunch of YouTube videos out there on people that have been use it to schedule things
Hmm.
and put reminders to themselves to I don't know, mend the soil or
Yep.
check the cows and see if they're pregnant on this day. And we have all of those solutions that are definitely helpful, especially the more you've got going on, the more handy these
I think
become.
the worst thing about that being using these apps and this software and all that stuff is that it will probably be lost for the next generation. Where I've been rereading the book 10 Acres Enough.
Oh yeah, I love
And
that book.
that guy was such a great record keeper of all the things he was doing.
Yes.
And and then I look at like Thomas Jefferson's book about his
His
gardens
farm
and
book.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's always here for us to look at and how
Do
meticulous his
feel like
records were and when he
yes.
planted things and when he harvested things and how good it done and what it suffered with. I mean, we lose something by not
Mhm.
putting that in paper, I
Yeah,
think, and passing it
I
down.
agree. I do feel like
Um,
if you're going to use something like that, that maybe it would be a good idea too to print it because
yeah.
um a lot of that stuff, if you lose power or the internet goes down, and I know this sounds crazy, but we've had it happen several times in the last few years, haven't we? You don't have access to that stuff. Um, when I was working at an office, we actually lost access to things for a day because we had used some Google Docs for things. So it might be a good idea to print it out. And then it's also nice to print it out because for what you just said, it's nice for your
Put it in a
generations from
binder.
now.
Yeah, poke some
Yeah,
holes in it, put it in a binder, and hand it down to your kids or something. And maybe they'll want to do something, maybe get it published one day or something and do something with it, like, like other people have
right.
done
It's
with
pretty
stuff like that.
cool. I
Because
have
I love
Thomas
reading that kind of stuff.
Jefferson's garden
I do
book,
too. I got it on the shelf
and
behind me, and
I
I love
love
it.
it.
Yeah,
I love
I just
it.
think like I said, that 10 acres enough that I'm reading. It's a small book, but that guy kept track of like how much money exactly he made with everything, how much he spent on everything,
Yeah.
how much he planted, when he harvested, what he was battling with as far as weeds and different. I mean, I love that kind of record keeping. I don't
Mhm.
love doing it so much, but I love reading about it, and I love just seeing
I
how
know.
people did that.
I always every spring I kind of set out with the purpose of doing something like that because I enjoy reading it so much. When
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
enjoy reading historical accounts of homesteads and
Yeah.
farms and stuff like
Me
that.
too.
But I never follow through with
I've
it.
started so many times and I'll
Me
get,
too.
maybe a couple months into it, but then I'll
You
get
get to like
busy
June.
in the summertime and then you stop. And yeah, I've done that several times too.
I need to
I've got
just leave it
notebooks.
outside, like on the porch, and
Hmm.
then maybe when I sit down and drink my water or something like that, I would remember to do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, or printing up might be a better option. Just doing the stuff on, and then printing it up and putting it in a book or something. It's like I'll write a blog post on something. It's like maybe I need to turn that into an actual page and put it in something so it's
well, that's kind of
something you can look at
how
later.
with my blog, which I am very bad about updating, that was kind of my purpose, was almost like a diary slash blog slash
Yeah. Well, when blogs for first invented, that's kind of like what we're like a like a daily log of what you were doing,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it could be a great idea, but again, we're going to low tech, so we're showing there's like this big difference in or technology versus this old school way that's still, we still find fascinating and read and do all these things. I guess it's probably part of why I just kind of reversing my mindset and wanting to do less and less and less technology all the time, even though there's some things I'll probably always have. I'm always going to have like the solar lights and the cameras and things like that. I mean, there's
Right.
just some things I'm going to use, and I think they're a great idea. And it's like I said, if anybody says, "Hey, I want the technology, I love it, I invite it, I enjoy it, I want it, I want
Yeah.
to have at it." I think it's fascinating as can be, but I just find that I'm enjoying more having that more direct connection with my homestead.
Well, for
And
me, it feels like I have to have more of a thought process behind, well, what do I do if I have to back this up now.
yeah,
Where if I just have plants in soil and I have to go out there with my watering can, I don't have to back that up as much. Otherwise, I guess I have to back myself up if I fell and broke my leg or something like that. But
and I actually think
yeah,
you have to include it as part of your budget is replacing these things because they don't last
yeah,
forever.
yeah,
And if you're looking at maybe just having reducing expenses. Like
yeah.
if you're really into simple living and you're wanting to get your expenses reduced as much as possible, then technology is that's part of your budget because this stuff don't last, and you're going to upgrade
Yeah.
things. Things are going to need upgraded. Things are going to need replaced, and it's like I just don't want to rely on that. It's like me. I'm actually to the point now where I'm actually doing away with a lot of wood around here because wood breaks down so fast when it gets moist, and just wooden beds, raised beds, and
That's
I
right.
have
You're
these
gone
wooden.
to the little metal ones, right?
No, I'm going stone. I'm putting rocks down for
Oh, that's right. You're
everything.
doing the stone.
And as far as like yeah, I'm putting stone down and cement blocks for things, and I'm just doing away with wood, brick. I'm going brick, cement blocks, and stone on most stuff because
I
if I
can't wait to
can,
see some of this.
because I just don't want to. I'm actually to that point where I told you that I got these 20-yard dumpster, right, and I'm filling it up. A lot of that was all this old rotten wood around everything. All these borders around my
Yeah.
walkways, all this stuff is rotten wood. I'm just throwing in there and it's so rotten. 6, 7 years later, it's just completely rotten. And you don't get that with stone and
Well,
cement
and
and
that's kind
brick.
of what we're both into is that permaculture, which is
Yeah.
permanent things like permanent agriculture and
Yeah.
using stone and cement blocks and bricks is definitely a permanent solution.
Yeah. If every 10 years I got the expense of replacing all the wood stuff around here that's rotted, plus the labor, plus just doing, just all the
Yeah.
time involved in doing it again, that doesn't seem like a great use of my money. I'd almost rather spend a little bit more, which I'm buying rocks really cheap and stuff. I'm getting that riprap stone, and putting it around garden beds and things, and it's not expensive, and makes a nice border, raises bed up about 6, 7 inches, so it gives you a little bit of a raised bed.
Hmm.
Separates my paths from my garden. I'm not getting the erosion out of my gardens into my pathways, and it's doing the trick. I'm actually think it's a better way. I have to bend over a
Yeah.
little further because I'm not making them as tall.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what, creating systems that to me, that's why I like primitive. I like to create primitive systems that will stand the test of time.
Yeah.
Just thinking super far into the future. Um, that's how I like things, which is why I feel like tech does sometimes make it hard because it becomes obsolete pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, and it does. And like I said, I think it just disconnects me from too many things that I want to be connected with on the homestead. It was all about, eating healthy and getting a good harvest when I first started, but it's become so much more than that,
Yeah.
for me. And it's really about being connected with the land, with the animals, with the plants, and just enjoying kind of the way it's supposed to be, having that hand in the soil and out there taking care of that stuff. And
Yeah,
I
definitely.
enjoy the process as much as the harvest. I really do.
Yeah. Same here. Same here. I mean, I just love being out there in the sun and having my hands in the dirt and the birds and the bees buzzing around you and
So
enjoy chickens,
I guess we'll close with that. We'll just say, you know what? There's some fun technology out there. There's some useful technology out there.
Yeah.
And if it fits what you're trying to do, you should use some of it. And if it doesn't, and it really doesn't thrill you to have it, then you can do it without it. and be more connected even with your homestead. So, and I think that's where I'm definitely leaning toward these days.
Yeah.
It sounds like you too.
Yep. Me too.
Well, with that, folks, happy homesteading. God bless.
And grow where you're planted.